more encouraging, the consistent responses from the offense, or more discouraging, frustrating from some of those base running mistakes?
No, discouraging. The whole effort was. What's not discouraging is you've got a game that simulates a conference game, a regional game, maybe even more. So there's, not just lessons learned, but they're kind of in caps or in bold, if you will, or highlighted much more than they would be on some other occasions we've had in this season. And then, as a coach, it's not if I'm going to be honest, it's not a good feeling to be sitting in the dugout. And your mind always wonders, and trust me, when the pitch is getting ready to be put into play, I think I'm paying attention to that pitch, but you've got other thoughts that go on during the course of a game. And to be a coach standing there saying, if we win this thing, how are we going to feel about it? So, on one end, you're going to feel like, holy cow, this is a really good team we just beat. So you just gobbled up some RPI points, and thank goodness we didn't have to go back to the locker room upset and all that good stuff. But it didn't look good from where I was standing.
Just how frustrating were the base running mistakes and the fielding mistakes, and what needs to happen to correct those? Is it more practice? Is it
no? It ain't more practice, and I'm not looking for anybody to say, and they're not going to after that game. If you were in attendance, to give us a gold star for coaching it up, but ask our guys how many times we're showing videos or going over stuff. Maybe you could fault us and say we've gone over it too much and we've made it too complicated. There was one practice where we kind of just said, hey, you just got to play the game a little bit like a little leaguer. That's kind of the cliff notes of it. So no, it's, do you want to win or not? That's what it is, and that's what I said in words in the outfield, and that's what I learned from my dad, and that's all I had on the field. We got guys that are 5 times a better player than I was, and I don't mean to say I or bring me into it, but just speaking with a little emotion to it. You got to want to win. And usually the team that wants to win more wins. If there's 2 teams with balanced talent, and we're in that part of the schedule, I don't know some of the non-conference opponents that'll come here, but because we've had a coat on when we hit a home run and a couple other times, we're gonna get the type of effort that we saw across the way. Now, Boston College, I think, is gonna have more talent than a lot of teams in the country, but the team that's gonna want to win more is gonna win. So,
Tony, whether it's the way you want things to be or not, are there times where when you lose a game, some of those things are easier to point out, or easier for guys to soak in that, hey, this actually could lose a game?
yeah, no, I think lessons learned or sometimes cast aside when you get results in the long run, or at the end of a game where we won. So, for instance, very easily, they only had 2 outfielders when Jared hit the ball, and somehow, and I say it jokingly, the guy's at bat was tremendous, but somehow he hits it right at the guy. So let's just say he hits it 5 yards to the left. Everybody rips his jersey off and they're celebrating, and those things we talk about in practice, that are unacceptable. Tomorrow, I don't know how closely they pay attention. I don't even know that we need to talk about it tomorrow, because I would have I'm going to have trouble personally, but if I was a member of the team as a player, I'd have trouble sleeping at night. I would be replaying all those in my head. So we played a Virginia team in Omaha. We played a couple teams last year in the postseason where you're kind of up in the office and you're like, well, we've lived a pretty charmed life. I've mentioned that throughout the year. Maybe the way these guys have an edge over us is they've learned those lessons. I brought up Virginia. Those guys coached their way through a 500 season about halfway through the year, and it made them a stronger team in the end, and they made a run to Omaha and for a while in Omaha.
How much more beneficial is it to play a competitive game like this against a Power 5 team than compared to the typical midweek opponents that you play?
Yeah, like I said, I think the typical thing is it's kind of flipped. At first when we got here, it was, you could see people salivating when they got off the bus, and almost we kind of got bullied around in some of those games regardless of how good their football team is. Let's be honest, a lot of times that's kind of how it's judged. But college baseball is different. Anybody can get anybody. And then again, when you sprinkle in, it's an SEC team, you can ask any other team in our conference that, and again, you sprinkle in the, Drew's Grand Slam gets replayed a bunch. It doesn't take a genius to figure out it's going to be pretty competitive on a Tuesday, a Wednesday. If we move a game up, or the SEC moves it up to a Thursday, you name it. It's going to be like it was tonight, a lot more than it was last year. And I kept thinking it was going to come last year, and for whatever reason, it was a wide margin very, very often. But if you really want to go far, again, even with that team last year, it's going to get down to the nitty-gritty like it did tonight. And you just got to want to win. I mean, we can pull up Ron Polk's, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He's got a book about this big. We can sit in our classroom tomorrow and read it. They ain't going to do it.
Think this group can handle kind of the energy that these other teams are bringing to the ballpark?
Yeah. I mean, we've been in each of these games. Grand Canyon's. I'm just kind of saying it what I think. I don't know if it's the best crowd they've ever had in the history of a really good program, and they might have as much talent as any team that they've had. And it's the same as tonight. And then Boston College, they've always been good. Like I said, they're well coached. But you could tell me any scenario all the way up to the end of the season and said Boston College, I'm not going to be surprised. So yeah, they're right where they need to be. Arizona, Hunter Ensley's ball goes past the third baseman who makes a Gold Glove play. The game's tied, and maybe we win that one. So we're talking about a very small deal here. But in the SEC, that is the margin between winning and losing is that small. And you can read a book, or we can do diagrams and stuff like that, and we can meet extra in the outfield before the game for an extra 2 minutes to go all over that stuff, like the wind blowing the way that it was tonight. But when the game starts, man, what's in your chest? Do you want to win? Go ahead.
Where was the miscommunication on that Stark bunt there in the 8th inning when Merritt didn't go home?
I didn't even ask out of frustration. I think once we'll go over it, but when you're in the midst of the game, you can pretty much see where something maybe could have gone better. And obviously the read probably was more towards the pitcher and more towards the first base side. But we'll go over that. That's just kind of my guesstimation. At that point, you can't change it. You hope the next guy gets a knock and you score somehow, but they scored one more than we did tonight.
How important is Morehead State this weekend, but your last series before conference play?
Yeah, I mean, you want to answer. The real first responders are heroes and things like that. Maybe that's my alarm to tell me to watch video on that game. With any loss, how you respond is huge. I mean, the Omaha team that we had 2 years ago, or I should just call it the 21 team, Fergie and Liam and those guys, they always answered after something like this went on. And again, last year lived kind of a blessed season, and maybe you didn't have it on as many occasions, but real life is you take lumps, and how you answer is huge. Because in any conference, once conference is about to start for everybody, you can get excited about the SEC, but it don't matter. Everyone wants to beat each other's brains in, and so you end up getting one in the jaw, and then you give one in the jaw, and then on Sunday, who's going to do it, and then you got to recover the next weekend and play another good opponent. So yeah, how you respond is everything.
Tony, any explanation from Ethan on what he saw on that fly ball left there?
No, I watched his feed. I mean, he's antsy to score on a ground ball. He's going on contact in that situation, which I think anybody in Major League Baseball would maybe do. College, again, I'm guesstimating, but on average, you're going to go on contact. So he's in a big old hurry to kind of go on the ground. So maybe an extra step or two towards home, recover towards third. And so he never really had his feet under him. And I don't know if he would have scored if so. It wasn't a clean defensive play, but needed to go right back to the base. Easy for me to say. I'm standing over in the dugout. I got the whole thing in front of me, but that's stuff you got to tell yourself before the pitch, and then you got to do it. And I don't know if everyone listens to the same damn interviews twice. I try and give you guys different answers than I give John and Vince, but we're in there in the radio. It's determination and composure. So good for you if you can hit it real far or you can throw it real hard, but once the actual game starts, you got to have some determination and some grit about you, and they had more than we did tonight, which pains me to say. So if anyone wants to I hope it's not you all, but if someone wants to put on Twitter, then earn your salary or whatever, then that's fine, but it's not acceptable for someone else to have enough grit or more grit than us in particular on our field. But with that, you got to have some composure. So herein lies Jared Dickey's at bat. That ain't easy. You got 5 guys. There's normally 4. And the game, online, and all this stuff. And coach does a visit, and strategies in play. But he's a really competitive kid, and he's also got composure. That's a tough mix to have. I damn sure didn't have it. I don't know how to coach it. But the guys who do have it, like Christian Moore and Jared Dickey and Blake Burke, they better start sharing it with the others. And there's some others that have it too. And we obviously got a good pitching staff, but sharing is caring. So that stuff better be going on tomorrow.
Thanks, Coach.